Sojourner Truth Part 3, Twilight. In 1846, at the Northampton Association, Truth met Olive Gilbert, the one who wrote Truth's biography, which was published in 1850. The Ain't I a Woman, also called the Aren't I a Woman by English professors, speech in Akron in 1851 probably never happened. It was made up by Frances Gage to further her cause. Gage was abolitionist, suffragist, civil rights, women's rights advocate, and I will read you a part of the speech that Frances Gage's version of the speech. Well, children, there is so much racket there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women at the North all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that a woman need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches, and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man, when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's this they call it? Member of the audience whispers, intellect. That's it, honey. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negro rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint, and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? Then all that little man in black there, he says women can't have as much rights as men, 'cause Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let them. Obliged to you for hearing me, and now old Sojourner ain't got nothing more to say. That's Gage's writing of it. But her writing was, I believe it was about 15 years later. And the one that I'm about to read you, it's on page 82 of the Sojourner Truth Slave Prophet Legend book, if you want to follow along. It's probably more accurate as it was written right after her speech, after her speech took place. And there was no agenda. This was written in the Bugle, which really seems to not have had as much of an agenda as Gage would. So here's what they said her speech consisted of. May I say a few words? And with receiving affirmative answer, she proceeded. I want to say a few words about this matter. I am a woman's rights. I have as much muscle as any man and can do as much work as any man. I have plowed and reaped and husked and chopped and mowed, and can any man do more than that? I have heard much about the sexes being equal. I can carry as much as any man and can eat as much too, if I can get it. I am as strong as any man that is now. As for intellect, all I can say, if women have a pint and a man have a quart, why can't she have her little pint full? You need not be afraid to give us our rights for fear we will take too much, for we won't take more than our pint will hold. The poor men seem to be all in confusion and don't know what to do. Why, children, if you have women's rights, give it to her and you will feel better. You will have your own rights and they won't be so much trouble. I can't read, but I can hear. I have heard the Bible and have learned that Eve caused man to sin. Well, if women upset the world, do give her a chance to set it right side up again. The lady has spoken about Jesus, how he never spurned woman from him. And she was right. When Lazarus died, Mary and Martha came to him with faith and love and besought him to raise their brother. And Jesus wept, and Lazarus came forth. And how came Jesus into the world? Though God created him and woman bore him, man, where is your part? But the women are coming up, blessed be God, and a few of the men are coming up with them. But man is in a tight place. The poor slave is on him. The woman is coming on him, and he is surely between a hawk and a buzzard. The punctuation on that is not very good, so. Truth acquired her house in 1850. Sam Hill paid for it and subcontracted to Truth on time. Basically, it was a mortgage, but not through a bank. She paid directly Sam Hill. All three of her daughters lived with her at one time or another at that residence. Peter was lost to history. Now, Peter, if you remember, he was getting in all sorts of trouble after he got out of slavery. He he was skipping school and doing illegal stuff, in and out of jail. It said Sojourner Truth didn't help him, didn't bail him out or bond him out or pay for an attorney. She told me, no, you suffer the consequences. And he had always taken an interest in boating or being on the water with the ships. And he had an opportunity to do that, and he took it. And if I'm not mistaken, I read that he had made correspondence with her a couple times, his mom a couple times, but then no more. And she had never again heard from him. So she doesn't know if he got killed, if he got thrown, what happened. And I'm noticing the males in Truth's lives are pretty much duds. Her husband thought it was too risky to try to escape and didn't help her escape. Basically just abandoned her. Peter, her son, had ample opportunity to learn. He chose a life of crime, skipping school, and being a good for nothing. Her daughter's husbands, the husbands basically, at least the first ones. One daughter I believe was married twice, but the first one of all these daughters, they abandoned them and the kids. In 1854, Truth's house was paid off. Her house she bought on November 1st. Well, basically contracted through Sam Hill, November 1st, 1850. I'm sorry. She bought it on April 15th, 1850, and paid it off on November 1st, 1854. So would that be less than 4 years she had it paid off? She bought the plot of land next to her house for $25, and a few years later, in 1857, she sold that plot for $740. So she was an early flipper. In 1857, she came to Michigan to do some speaking in the Battle Creek area. While there, she bought a lot in Harmonia. It says she had a modest house in Harmonia. She had it built. But I'm kind of thinking I would have to argue that they're going off. Okay, the truth is they're going off of the census and what the house was assessed at. I would argue because she had the house built herself. I would argue that she was a victim of what we call black calculation. Her house may have been assessed at a lower value because she was black. Now, this still happens to this day. Um, Maybe because the they saw the homeowner was black, they assessed her house at a lower value they would have assessed it if she was white. It also might be because there was so much prejudice against women. It might have been that because she was a woman, that they didn't assess the value as high as they would if it was a man. And it might have been the combination of the two. Harmonia became defunct in 1862. It was one of them communities, not necessarily, it didn't seem much like from what I read, it didn't seem much like a compound, but more of a community of like-minded spiritualists. And it started going financially it was going bankrupt. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the mill had um, become defunct, which was a source of commerce for the community. And so then it fell on financial hard times. Then there was a fire and there was a tornado, and it just never recovered after the tornado. So she moved again. There's no indication as to why she originally moved there. Some of her like-minded friends had already lived there. It might have just been that she knew them. She was speaking around that area at the time. It's not sure why she just didn't live in Battle Creek or just room in Battle Creek. She still had her house in Northampton. Uh, that's lost to history. By 1860, Truth had living with her Elizabeth, her daughter Elizabeth, and her grandsons, Truth's grandson Samuel, who was about 8 at the time, and another grandson James, who was about 16 at the time. Now Samuel will be very important to her. He's knows how to read, write, add, subtract, all that. He's been to school, and he will be, even as young as 14, be traveling with her on her speeches, helping her with the correspondence and errands, writing her speeches, um, advocating on her part, just because he has literacy. And also, Sojourner Truth is getting older and she needs more help getting things done. In 1863, Truth visited Detroit prior to Thanksgiving and stayed until February. Our claim to fame. In 1864, Truth met Tubman in Boston, and they had a little disagreement about Lincoln. Um, Truth kind of sided with Lincoln, thought he was doing the best he could with what he had. Tubman was not so sure. She felt that he could be doing a lot more for black people. Truth was making speeches all along about this time as she traveled. She was also selling what she called her shadow, which was her picture. She was um, making money while she was doing this traveling. About September 28th, 1864, she began working in freedmen organizations to encourage freedmen to learn skills, be industrious, and latch on to all the educational opportunities they were awarded. It seems she was more of an orator as opposed to an educator in this area, being that she didn't have much of she had no education herself. But it was said that she occasionally had knitting or crocheting needles with her and yarn, and would crochet or knit while she was speaking to, as being a role model to those she was speaking to be industrious. October 29, 1864, Truth visited Lincoln at the White House. Research suggests Lincoln indicated he did not believe in the equality of races. He did pass a law in Washington, D.C., desegregating trolleys and carriages, but he he did not allow Sojourner Truth audience with him. She had to go through her own means. She had to go through a friend of hers. I believe her name, her friend was Lucy, who was white. Go through Lucy to have her organize this meeting with Lincoln. And when Truth did speak with Lincoln, Lincoln, instead of addressing her as Mrs. Truth, he addressed her as Auntie, like he would a black subject of his, maybe his housekeeper or gardener. He wasn't jokey like he was. He usually told jokes when he would speak to people and was in their audience, and he just did not do that with her. There was also a reporter who said that there was a public reception with Lincoln being part of it, and Truth was not allowed in. She was the only one that was not allowed in, and it was because she was black. The reporter told Lincoln when he was finally able to speak with him what a disappointment that was, and Lincoln, according to this reporter, Lincoln promised to have a private audience with Truth to make up for that. There was never any indication that happened. So I don't even know the truthiness of the story to begin with. I don't know if maybe Lincoln just never held up his end of the promise. Who knows? But according to Sojourner's own words, that she only met Lincoln that one time. And so apparently, if this story is true, she never did get another audience with him. Because of this law, because of this law of the desegregation in Washington, D.C., she successfully had 2 conductors fired for their practices. One conductor, when she was trying to get on board, I don't remember if it was a carriage or a trolley, but he pushed her into the door so hard that she had to go to the hospital and get treated, and she had some severe injury to her shoulder. She worked at various freedmen's organizations such as hospitals and camps. All these camps and the hospitals basically sounded like your typical concentration camps. It seemed like they would have probably been in poor condition, substandard, not good. She railed against the tenant sloth, encouraging industry and education. And I'm going to stop right there and take it up next week.